How do you leave people better than you found them? And sometimes it's just to be a listening ear. Sometimes it's just to give them a hug and not say anything at all. Or sometimes it's just to leave them alone and have time to do whatever they need to do to get out of whatever space they're in.
Hello, and welcome to the PSI Podcast, a podcast for you to explore where a life lived with purpose meets transformation. Each week, we will bring you powerful insights, inspiring stories, and real-world tools for you to break through your limitations, unlock your potential, and live the life you were meant to. I'm your host, Tim Bowen.
And I am your co-host, Mackenzie O'Kelley. For more than 50 years, PSI seminars and PSI World have helped thousands of people create the life they deserve to live. And now, it's your turn.
All right, well, welcome back to the PSI Podcast. We are joined yet again by Mackenzie O'Kelley. I'm your host, Tim Bowen, and the one and only Alison Bechtel Clark, who is not only an instructor for our Women's Leadership Seminar, but she is a successful business owner, a wonderful mother and spouse, and just like I've said before, an all-around wonderful person. And so this is part 3 of our 4-part series with Alison on Purposeful Alignment. If you missed parts 1 and 2, be sure to go back and watch or listen to those to get all caught up. But we're going to jump right in because this has been exciting. It's been super productive. And so, Alison, take it away.
Okay, so we talked about alignment in general. We talked about getting clear, so you have clarity and focus and purpose. And now I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, yet it totally ties in. And so I call it aliveness. And you ever have those times in life where you just feel like tons of energy and you're just like, you just feel great, like you're buzzing, like I can do anything. So those moments are moments to anchor into. And those moments don't come all the time. And yet, if you're purposeful about it, you can create more of that in your life. And I have a correlation between, or I see a correlation between people who are aligned and people who have an aliveness about them. And, you ever like just walk down the street and someone just smiles, there's just an energy about them, you're like, whoa, like super contagious. And then you get excited, you're like,
yeah, like
why?
Magnetic. Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to talk about is like, there are people in your life who bring energy to you. And there are people in your life that you bring energy to. And there's also people that can suck your energy. And it's really important to be able to identify who those people are in your life and what situations are the same way. Okay? And so if you were to take a look and spend some time really reflecting on what are the situations and people that bring you energy? Right? So if you were to make a list of the people in your life that when you're around them, you just light up. They light up, and then suddenly you have like a party going. Like you can think about these stories about the times where something awesome happened because somebody walked into a room with just a glow about them, and it shifted the dynamic of everything else, right? Now, you can probably also think the opposite of a time where there's, a situation or people that completely drain your energy and dull your aliveness, right? They're like the energy vampires, those people. And I have had plenty of clients in the past that I literally have make a list. Who are these people in these 2 categories? And what are the types of situations that mirror these categories? And so for me, if a situation that would drain my energy is doing bookkeeping, right? But in a situation that brings me energy is being at WLS, being around other women, being around the PSI grads when we're doing community projects. Like I can think of those are like super high energy, positive vibes. We are moving mountains together type of moments. And those are the ones I want more of. Right? And so if you take this list and you write all these people's names out, You're going to go, wow, this is incredible. These people I want to spend more time with. And the people over here, like, what do you do with them?
I was gonna say, what if one's like your your family, your boss or something, like you kind of got to be around
You
them?
do, right? You can't like go, okay, I'm done with you. Like that doesn't happen. So they're all part of what makes up your life. So the question is like, if you could make an impact in any way, shape, or form, what would that impact be? And that's a question you get to ask before you go into either of those situations, whether it be the super fun, energetic one or the not so fun one. And I know there's people who have family members or bosses who are not easy to work with. And yet you still have to work with them.
Well, that was going to be my question for you. It's like, what's your advice to someone who it's like, there's somebody in my life who my life works because they're in it, and yet they are one of those kind of energy vampires, right? So how do I stay in alignment within myself? Because I don't want to trash that relationship, right? It's a person who's important to me, even if we're not necessarily aligned the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have people like that in my life as well. And so there are times where I find a lot of times, I'm just going to call them the grumpy grandpas because that's what I used earlier, okay? So the grumpy grandpas are really, they're upset about something that has nothing to do with you. That's typically what it is. They're just upset about something. And sometimes they just want to be heard. And so oftentimes the best remedy is to go, is everything okay? And they may go, yeah, everything's okay. I'm just mad about this and da 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 da. And just listen. Just listen and go, all right,
Yeah,
I love you.
I
Have a great day.
I can I can empathize and I can validate this other person without changing my values, without jeopardizing my own personal alignment, right? My own purpose. I can still relate to them. I can understand where they're at.
Absolutely. And the energy you bring to the moment could have a positive impact on that.
Well, what's coming to mind for me is Kathy Quinlan Perez, who we all know and love. She says a lot, when in doubt, focus out. And so like that popped into my mind versus like being like, is it me? Are they mad at me? Did I do something? Why are they blah, blah, blah? To just like pause and go, okay, what's going on with them? And to, like Tim said, like empathize and just check in and listen versus like, I'm feeling this way or whatever.
Totally. Well, but also I think that's part of the problem with grumpy grandpas, and I've been a grumpy grandpa myself, so I'm not like projecting out, right? It's me too. But being in that grumpy grandpa space, it's like the reason why I'm a grumpy grandpa in that moment is because I'm making it about me. Right? And so if you can take the energy off of yourself and go, hey, that person's not being rude to me because they're being rude to me. They're just in a funk at the moment. Let's give them space to be in a funk. When I'm in a funk, I want to be in a funk all by myself. I don't want people around me, and maybe I want to be heard and just vent for a moment, and then I get it out and I move on. And maybe that's all they need for the moment. And so you're not going to be able to take people out of your life. And how do you make it work with them? And I always believe that, like we talked about earlier sections, is like, how do you leave people better than you found them? And sometimes it's just to be a listening ear. Sometimes it's just to give them a hug and not say anything at all. Or sometimes it's just to leave them alone and have time to do whatever they need to do to get out of whatever space they're in.
Yeah, I think our lives would work so much easier, so much better, if we didn't approach people with making, I don't want to say it, like wanting to make them wrong, right? Like so often when we are misaligned, I can speak for myself. If I'm not like aware, if I'm not grounded in who I am and with what I want out of the relationship, and there's a disagreement or we are just on totally different playing fields, like my approach can be about making them wrong, right? And that's not ever going to be productive. That's not going to lead us anywhere positive.
And that's a super easy space to get to, Tim. Like that happens all the time. So I guess the best advice for me is when you make that list, pay attention.
I just want to say thank you for listening and validating me just now. That was good.
See?
But sorry, go ahead. When we make that list.
That's awesome.
We're not grumpy grandpas anymore. We were just
there you go.
heard.
We got it out. We're done. Moving on. Higher vibes. So when you make that list of people, the coolest part about the list, in my opinion, is that you become aware, right? And because sometimes these people are in our lives because they have to be in our lives, and we don't always realize the impact of what's happening through our interactions with them because we're just used to it. And now we're paying attention, go, hey, wait, actually, that person, every time they come in my office, I get a pit in my stomach. I never noticed that before. Wow. Okay. How can I, bridge the gap between this relationship or not? Or, how are you going to maneuver through that depending on the situation, whether you have to work with them or there's someone who maybe you just don't want in your life anymore, or at least limit their ability to get to you. Okay.
And that's so important. I mean, that's something that I have to recognize, right? Like, nobody has the power to change my attitude, my beliefs about myself, anything like that. Like, I absolutely understand what you're talking about in terms of like being in a space and feeling that energy drain, feeling that shift, feeling that ickiness sometimes around individuals in my life, right? And yet, as long as I'm grounded in who I am and I'm staying true to myself, like, I can still be in relationship with that person and not let that negatively impact.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it right there, Tim. That's totally it. That's why all this work is so important. So as we've moved through this a little bit, so when you find yourself feeling like alive and excited, there's another piece that goes on with it. And I always ask these questions of, for me, I've asked myself this many times, like, when am I at my best? Like, what am I doing when I'm at my best? And for me, it's pretty simple. But if you were to think about what are the things that really support you in bringing more aliveness on a daily basis? And so for me, like the foods that I eat, like I know when I go on vacation and I eat like all the foods that I don't normally eat, I start to not feel so good. And it's fun for the moment. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have had all that cake and, all the fun stuff. But when I eat clean, when I exercise, when I spend time with my family, when I spend time reading, like those foundational little things, when I'm doing those things, I know that I'm bringing the best version of me to my day. And the days that I don't do those things, I'm not like all, engines firing. And so taking that part of it too is it's not just, who's around you, but it's like, how are you caring for you such that you can bring the best version of you to this moment? And that when you get in those tight situations or tough situations with a boss who maybe is not the nicest person in the world, that you can handle it with the grace that Tim just shared, like being really grounded in who you are. And it's really how you set yourself up for success throughout your day. So it's a moment by moment thing.
Is it still okay to eat cake every now and then?
It is. It is. So yeah. So when we go on vacation, like we go to this like a couple different like all inclusive things, and so every time we're like, we have to have one of each dessert, and my husband and I will share it. And so we taste like everything, at least a little bite, and it ends up being they do a lot of desserts with a lot of bites, so it adds up quick.
That's a nice compromise. Like, yes, and we're splitting it, but like,
yeah, it's good. They're small little ones, like small ones, but they're really good. They're really good. Yeah.
I think it's easy for me at least is like being able to have the distinction of what feels good in this moment versus what is in alignment with me. Like, the cake feels great now, and then it's like, oh, that, didn't sit well, or whatever it may be, or like the doom scrolling, it's like it feels good in this moment, and then after it's like, that didn't align with what I want. And so to like tell the difference between like what feels good in the moment versus what is actually supporting me.
And that goes back to who you are, what you want, where you're going, and why. Like, is where you're going an alignment with flipping through Instagram for 4 hours a day? You know, like my kids all the time, I'm like, dude, get off of freaking TikTok. Like, there's nothing new on there. I promise you, nothing important is on TikTok right now.
Just a plug to like go follow Psy Seminars on TikTok. Except for us.
Yeah, and so I think part of the opportunity here is that there's going to be obstacles that come up. Sometimes they're people, sometimes they're situations, there's circumstances, all kinds of stuff comes up. And so how do you move from commitment, which is like, yes, I'm feeling like I'm going on this path, and you're going to hit a bump, and then now what do you do? What's the behavior? What's the action you take? What is the step that you do? We're going to talk a little bit about obstacles, right? And so sometimes it's a people obstacle, it's a circumstance obstacle, it could be a situation, it could be all kinds of things. And obstacles are always going to come up. And so when you move from commitment, which is like a feeling of, yes, I'm committed, I'm doing this thing, and you have to move to a system, a behavior, an action, something to align those things together. So what you're feeling is aligned with where you're going and your actions you're taking. And so it's one really great question to always ask is, what's the one action that if you did it consistently would have the greatest impact on achieving your goal? And so not what's the 42 things that you could do, what's the one thing that if you did it consistently would have the biggest impact. And that's the only thing you want to focus on. And it's tiny actions every day. Keep it simple, simple, simple. And you're not looking for a 100% change overnight. It's small, purposeful, consistent actions. And so when you start taking those actions, you're going to see a shift and a change in how you lead yourself, how you lead others, and the results that you're creating. And I think that is good for our third segment, unless there's something you want to add to that, Kenzie.
No, I just, again, I'm a big fan of the bite size, again, back to the big purpose. It's like, but no, one thing that I can do consistently, like that's manageable. That's doable. Like I appreciate the small steps to get to the big one.
Well, because otherwise it goes back to getting really overwhelmed with things again. And when you have 42 things on your list that you got to get done, it's like, oh, where do I start? Instead of just, I have one thing I have to do. And if I do that thing really well, a little bit each day, it's going to make huge strides towards where you want to go.
Makes perfect sense. I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Allison. That is part 3 of 4. And for everybody tuning in, we'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining us today for the PSI Podcast.
If today's conversation sparks something for you, don't let it stop here. Share this episode with someone who's ready for their next breakthrough, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to grow. I'm Tim Bowen.
And I'm Mackenzie O'Kelley. Until next time.